Iran's economy has seen better days. Years of U.S.-led sanctions have taken their toll, but the Tehran Stock Exchange has been booming, leading some to question whether the Iranian government is perhaps manipulating the numbers. Well, here to discuss Iran and the extraordinary performance by the Tehran Stock Exchange is the Middle East Economic and Political Analysis Company Director and analyst himself, Meir Javedanfar. Good morning to you, Meir. This isn't a very deep, this isn't a very open market. It's certainly not one that we cover day to day, but this extraordinary performance, passing all-time highs, certainly got our attention. What's behind this?
Well, Margaret, I have to add that since that article was written, the Tehran Stock Exchange has actually risen 1,000 points from 16,000 to 17,000. So now it's even higher than before. And the reason why some people believe that the numbers may not be right are twofold. One of them is that the companies who are buying majority of the shares on the Tehran Stock Exchange are actually government-owned. And the concern is that those government-owned companies are buying those shares in order to keep the prices inflated, because there are so many people in Iran from the lower income bracket of the society who own shares. The government gives them shares. So the thinking is that by pumping up the prices, they want to keep them on the government side. And there's also the other factor that the computerized section of the Tehran Stock Exchange was changed in 2009, and all the records for prices prior to that have been deleted, have disappeared. So because of that, the Iranian parliament itself has ordered an investigation.
Perhaps they're breeding a false sense of optimism. You bring up the point that some of the poorest members of society actually are in the stock market, and that's because 20% of the shares of privatized companies are distributed to the poor. Who else is active in the market?
Yes, the 20% get those shares based on the Article 44 of the Iranian Constitution. It's a privatization plan which supports the poor, and also the rest goes to, they're listed on the stock exchange, and the majority of those shares are bought by companies which are basically government-owned, companies that are owned by the Revolutionary Guard, companies that are owned by the People's Basij, and there's not really private investment involvement in the Tehran Stock Exchange, which adds to the suspicions that this price that we are seeing of the Tehran Stock Exchange is not realistic and may be inflated.
Now, you are joining us this morning or this afternoon, your local time, from Tel Aviv. How many people make a business doing what you do in terms of watching the Tehran market?
Well, the Tehran market is a good indication of what is happening in Iran. If you look at the Tehran Stock Exchange, it very much the developments you see there in terms of what is changing in the system of management, how the prices are basically going in relations to the setbacks of the recent Iranian economy. It can be used as a very good testing ground, as a very good laboratory to see how the Iranian government is running the country and where the investment is being made and who's really controlling the economy, because in Iran there's no such thing as private economy left. So it's a very good way of finding out how the Iranian government is planning to carry out its future, especially regarding its own policies, domestic policies, which have a strong say in what they do in terms of their foreign policy and, of course, the nuclear program.
Right, and of course that nuclear program over the weekend making a lot of headlines because that reactor is now up and functioning. Since you study the region, you follow the politics as well. The reports in the U.S. is that there's at least another year before weapons-ready nuclear capacity is there. Is that something that you agree with?
Yes, I do. I think the Iranians are making progress in the enrichment program. They are now enriching up to 20%. The distance between enriching 20%, which is kind of for civilian stroke military use, until for 90%, which is used for making a bomb, is not very big. And the Iranians are making great advances there. And this is a cause for concern. However, there's still room for sanctions and diplomacy.
Well, we will watch what happens. Meir, thank you for joining us and for your perspective. Stay with us.